told she was brain dead. And seeing this X-ray was like, wow. Yeah. But obviously she was on life support and stuff, and I went into her, and I just told her I loved her.
As an actor, I always come in so open and willing and devoted. I really think, you know, the intensity of the work and the relationship requires the devotion, and requires the
We have to make it safe for people to feel that they can talk about this. And in doing that, I think that'll scare away that kind of behavior. But more than anything, you're going to have a warning shot over the bow of anyone who would act like that you will be outed.
I mean, there was elements which were fun, because it's like this camaraderie of people not being successful, and you can complain about all the people who are rude to you. But it wasn't nice. You constantly are told that you're not pretty enough and not.
It's sort of a crazy thing to be that age, to be 16 years old and be starring in a movie. I auditioned for it and I worked so hard to get the role. So it meant so much to me, you know? I mean, I remember having to go through like
I was really lucky that Kip Thorne was our executive producer, because he's a leading theoretical physicist. And I'm not an astrophysicist in real life, even though I play one on TV, I guess. I play one on movies.
No, it was, here's what happened. I mean, right before I came on, you know, my manager, my great manager, Emily Gerson-Sains, was backstage, and the thing she said to me was like, whatever you do not be the first one out.
I always get that people who are like, this is silly, and I'm not all wrapped up in how I look, but it's always funny when people are like, oh my gosh, you're so much prettier in person than you are on camera, and I'm like, I think that's a compliment or not, but it's fine, like either way. But
I'm reading a book called Children of God, which is about, I forget the name of the author, but it's about a religious cult, because I'm working on a film at the moment called The Lodge, and it's
In Schindler's List, I played Armand Goeth, who was the commandant of a Nazi labor camp in outside Krakow in Poland. I'd done maybe 2 feature films before.
But they can't say it. Me and my son were playing a video game, and this made me laugh. We're playing DC versus Marvel, and I play with Superman, and he slams me in the game, and my son goes, I'm gonna break your back in the game too.
Funnily enough, we made the movie true to the character. We honestly finished the movie not knowing if it was going to be PG-13 or R-rated. All I kept saying is, I run into 10, 12, 14, 15-year-old boys and girls.
There's so many people that watch this past episode and that are such big fans of the show, and it means so much to us because we work really hard doing them, and it's really nice to know that they respond to it so much. We do everything for them on behalf of the entire cast.
hadn't played a character like India before, and she's sort of this really complex young woman. She's 18 years old, and when we meet her in the story for the first time, her father's just died, and he was sort of
the aerial footage is really beautiful. It's just, I'm a pilot myself. I love flying and I love aviation. So this is also, it's just a love letter to aviation.
We're about to show the audience something they're really going to enjoy. But before we do,
I think that, I mean, Jurassic Park, for me, I'll start there. I saw the movie when I was 12 years old in the theaters opening weekend. And I was super interested in movies and storytelling and
Well, Leo called me up because Sean Penn initially it was to play Fitzgerald, but he wasn't unavailable, and I was going to be doing Splinter Cell, and Leo called me up and said, "I'm doing this film with Alejandro." Absolutely, I started with book one, reading to my children when they were very little. We read all of them until by the end they were reading them and I was reading them side by side, seeing who could finish in the first. Trying not to give away secrets as we got ahead.
It was a hit sort of before I kind of knew it was. When you're in a show or something, I just didn't take much notice. I mean, I just thought every show has that kind of vibe. I mean, it was hitting the papers quite early on, just because the ratings were quite high, I guess, or something. Or I was taking off my clothes every 15 minutes. I don't know.
Well, it's a fantasy. It's not science fiction so much as it is space fantasy. And it's about people. It's finally about people and not finally about science. So the energy.
I think she understands the sacrifice you have to make on either end in order to have a kind of balance. That might not be a reality that some of the other characters are really willing to swallow, but, you know.
You know, we see the friends begin their journey in the Mystery Machine. I think that's a fantastic origin story. It's really fun. As a Scoob fan, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to share it with the world.
With playing Jane, there was a little bit of a trial period where Eddie and I went and spent some time with her and had dinner with her, and it did feel like it was much harder than any audition we'd ever done in our entire lives.
I mean, you know, so literally the first day on set, it's my first scene. And, you know, it's always that thing, you're a little bit nervous, and it was part of one jump. And if you remember, when we're running across like a tannery,
It wasn't even a decision. It was kind of this natural evolution of events. I went to school for acting, and then where I went to school for acting is called the Atlantic Theater Company, and so they function as a theater company in New York City.
Met so many amazing people along the way. Each of us in this room, you know, we know pain, we know loneliness, we bring that to the screen. We know moments of grace, we've had moments of wisdom, we bring that to the screen. We've all had a laugh at our
I like black and white movies. I'm also weirdly obsessed with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that was a big part of my childhood. My dog is named Arnie after him. I liked those kind of, Running Man and Total Recall and that kind of weird adventure.
Well, I wanted to know what the lunch breaks were going to be like. When they said cut, and here you were sitting around with three-headed monsters and people with hairdryer heads and so on. But it was a terrific script because they had to budget the film like a low-budget film. They called it.
Sometimes I'll go out, I have no makeup on, I put a hat on, and I am totally under the radar. Like, no one knows who I am. It's great, but there are a lot of times where just, like, going out to the mall or going out to eat, I get stopped by a few people, and, like, there have been times where I've been to, like,
I think it chose me as much as I chose it. I read it and immediately kind of fell in love with the script, and it wasn't a hard decision, as I think many would assume it was. It just felt like something I had to be a part of.
There's definitely something in it for every age group, and it is so hopeful, and I don't know, it's magical, and I think they did such a brilliant job with the script, with all the characters and all the elements, and the starting off in the orphan.
Early '77, before the film came out, my car skidded and I broke my nose against the steering wheel. And it was sort of forgotten. They set the nose, and the movie came out. Nobody noticed.
So time constraint just meant I had to be very focused and concentrated and get a lot done in a short space of time. I was scared at times because some of the characters didn't come as naturally. Some of them just came naturally, and I kind of had them down on the first read or the second read, and then.
When you're a young person, you're kind of like shopping for your personality. You try this outfit at school, it doesn't work, and you're like, okay, I'm not that guy, maybe I'm this guy. And that's like what it is to become an adult. Those realities are totally at tension with each other when you're young, because on one hand, you want to not necessarily.
One of the most important things you could realize is that you're not alone. You're not the first to go through it. You're not going to be the last to go through it. And oftentimes it happens. You feel like you're alone, and you feel like it's only you, and you're in your bubble, and
I was in full costume, and there was that wonderful sort of, that scene where Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters runs across Central Park and goes, oh, banging on that glass plate window, and everyone's sort of cutlery stops, and they all turn around to look at him, and he goes, like that, being mauled or whatever happens.
I don't know. I think childhood would be interesting. You mean about my life? Yeah, childhood. I mean, I grew up a very, very small town, northern Minnesota, and very different from.
Yes, this. When you've finished your food and someone else hasn't, someone will take that plate away immediately. I think that's so rude. I also don't get this whole exclusive relationship versus a non-exclusive relationship. But we're not exclusive.
Making eye contact with everybody, but not really, and I'm going like, oh my gosh, he's looking right at me, and he's not, but then he actually looks right at me, which is very different, and I'm so excited, and he looks right at me, and he goes, oh my gosh, he's talking about the economy and jobs and stuff, and he goes, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was definitely overwhelming. I have a pretty good system. I'm not on the internet that much, but my parents are, and they forward.
Thousand born-again Christians who are all blonde, by the way. Just the sea of blonde born-again Christians. And I just remember, walking out of that place, and it was just weird because there was people picketing, and they were passing out all these leaflets, like, don't go to this, it's, terrible. And it was.
I will say that I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of the people that I was looking forward to in terms of names, but in terms of my inspirations, I find that it's actually a lot of the times just old men on trains.
See you next time.